Hello and welcome to the Deadlifts and Pizza Podcast. We're your hosts, Jamie and Laura.
We're so I can't do it.
Come on, you were on a roll. What's up? How are you this evening?
Good.
It's morning. Morning. Sorry.
Good. How are you? Well, I'm kind of dumb in the morning, like I said.
Right. Yes, with this we know.
So I don't know how this is gonna go. So this morning, I went to go put my contacts in. As I was getting ready, and I opened my container in the podcast, and the contacts weren't in there. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I cleaned them." So then I opened the container with the solution where I cleaned them, and opened that, and they weren't in there. I opened the one side. I'm like, "Oh, did I lose one?" Nope. And then I opened the other side. Nothing. I'm like, "Where the hell are my contacts?" And I opened both containers again. I'm like, "Did I lose? Where could they possibly be?" Do you know where they were?
Oh God, where?
In my eyes.
Are you serious?
Like I do not, and I had to have done it this morning. I didn't have them in last night, and I literally do not remember putting them in my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
That's how dumb I am in the morning.
That's funny.
I have no memory of this.
Yeah. Well, at least you can see.
Yeah, that's very true. At least I found them.
I've lost my mojo.
What do you mean?
Like my workout mojo. Like I go in these waves and phases, and it normally means I need to change something up.
Yeah.
And I've been feeling like it was coming, but I feel like it's officially time to change something. I've just been, the two things that I tend to rotate between are when I work out, whether it's in the morning or it's in the afternoon, and then where I work out, whether it's at home in my home gym or at like the gym. And these are the two things I rotate. And so one or both often needs to be changed up. And it's been like 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Every single workout I'm doing it in the afternoon before I go pick up my kids from the bus. And it's been like just really half-assed. You know what I mean? Like maybe one of the sets, the first set will usually be pretty good. Like I'll feel good, but warming up and getting into it and everything, by the time I've done like 2 exercises, I'm like, gotta go pick up my kids. And then sometimes I finish it and sometimes I don't. But if I do, then it's just kind of lame. And I've just like, something needs to change, right?
I was going to ask you how your workouts were coming. That's funny that you brought that up because I haven't heard much about them.
Yeah, it's been like frustrating and I've been feeling very lackluster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to try to do it in the morning. I'm not going to try to do it. I'm going to do it in the morning. My hesitation with doing it in the morning only has to do with my time zone, because my morning is all of our clients' like evening. And so I want to be available like in the morning. And then when everybody kind of goes to sleep and dies down, then I can like move forward with my day and like get my workout in. But it's just not working out for me. So I think what I'm going to have to do is like start the morning early, get like the necessary communications and stuff done. Anything I would do like communication wise, check-in, stuff like that. And then I think I'm going to take my daughter to school and then use the gym while I'm there on base at like 8, 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to do.
That sounds good. So it's not the workouts themselves. It's the time.
No. And honestly, it very rarely is. Like I change up my program enough. Like I know my rhythm. I know 6 to 8 weeks is my time frame. And so if this happens in the middle of a program, it's almost always like it's the timing. And I notice when it's happening because I'll stop listening to music. I'll just be like, oh, I'm just going to do it silent. Like, I don't know why I even like set myself up for failure that way. It's like, I don't need any music. It's going to suck anyway. And I'm like, I'm doomed. Like,
these workouts are like, especially Monday. I think Monday is the hardest workout I've ever programmed, honestly.
It's very hard.
Like after Mondays, and this is, for me, this is the week before my period. So, or I'm going to get it soon. So everything that week, I feel that way where I'm like, I don't want to do this today. And it's really hard. And I just power through, but I don't usually have the greatest of workouts when I feel that way.
Yeah. But now I'm kind of excited. I almost feel like invigorated.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, like on Friday, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take her to school and I'm just going to go to the gym. And I have nothing else to do when I get in the gym. I can't sit down on my computer on my rest breaks. I can't do anything else. Everybody's watching me because they're not watching me. But in your mind, you're like, everybody's watching me. Got to do really awesome so they can be impressed.
Yeah.
Which is not true, but it's a little motivating. I'm excited.
What do you want to do next? Because there's only a couple weeks left.
That's a great question. I've been thinking about this. So right now we're both doing the quad focused program. Have you been doing all 3 days, by the way? All 3 lower body days?
I am. Last week I didn't, but I have been.
Dang, bro.
Yeah.
I have not been. But I planned on not, so that's okay. I should beat myself up for it. But anyway, I don't know what I want to do next. Do you know what you want to do next?
I'm so torn.
Uh-huh.
I have lots of... So I want to up my deadlift, right? I want to get to 300 pounds, but it's so heavy. And even just in this program, there's only 2 sets of deadlifts. So when I do them, I'm like, this is exhausting. But I feel like if I'm focusing on the deadlift and I'm not doing all this other stuff, maybe I'll have a little bit more energy for it. I don't know. I think part of the reason it's so exhausting is because I'm already exhausted. Whatever I do, I'm going to lower the volume since this is such higher volume. I'm going to do like a lower volume program. So my options are deadlift, which makes the most sense this time of year. Or the other thing I really want to do is like hybrid training and do more like sprints and things like that.
Hybrid training?
Yeah, hybrid training.
What a fancy term.
I know. I was making fun of it the one day.
Wait.
What else do you want to call it?
Do you mean that you're going to do strength training some days and sprints on other days?
Mm-hmm.
What a concept.
I know.
Hybrid training.
I know.
All right.
But this time of year, that's a little bit more challenging. And if I'm going to do it right, I don't sprint now. I don't even run now. So I shouldn't just go all out sprints 100%. I'll probably injure myself. I'm an old lady now. So I need to like work up to it. So if I'm going to do that, I'm probably going to do like a phase of moderate sprints where I'm not going full out and, a little bit shorter rest periods, and then work up to full on sprinting. I think that would be the smart thing to do. But if I do that, by the time I get to real sprinting, it's going to be like, it's not the cold. I don't want to run on the treadmill with the full on sprints. I could do the interval more the moderate sprinting on the treadmill. But if I'm going to go all out, I want to be outside to do it. And there's going to probably be snow on the ground. And that's going to make it harder. So it makes more sense to do that once the snow melts. But even then, I'm going to have to wait till a long time because if I do it in my yard, it gets all muddy and gross. So I have to wait till like the end of April, May. So far away. So I don't know.
So you want to focus on that, but you think you might wait till spring is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide between the two. I mean, I could always figure it out.
It's not going to snow yet. It's only October.
We can get snow in November, December. And if I'm going to, like I said, work up to that, by the time I get to the sprinting, there might be snow.
I don't think it's going to take you that long to get to sprinting. Like 1 week?
No, I'm probably going to do like 3 weeks of working up to that. I can't just like go out 100% and do that. I'll pull another muscle.
It's just 30 seconds.
Yeah, at full on speed.
So knock it down to like 75% or 70% of that.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but you only need to do that for like a week. You need it for 3 weeks.
3 weeks is better.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
I think you'd be fine.
You don't know how fast I am. When you have a big...
Here we go.
when you have a bigger... I don't know if I say bigger motor, but when you can go faster... It's just like if I'm going to deadlift and I can only deadlift 150 pounds, it's like, yeah, go on, whatever, lift it. But if I'm going to like, you know what I'm saying? It's different. 300 pounds, you got to be a little more careful.
Yeah, but I just think that you're already probably very capable, and a warm-up week, and then you just start to increase it from there. I feel like you'd be fine.
We'll see. Because I mean,
We
did
won't say
sprint.
because you're going to do 3 weeks.
I did some sprinting before, like in the end of summertime. I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like, yeah, I'm going to pull something, so I gotta get used to running. I don't run. I don't do that. I have to get my body used to doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So maybe focus on your deadlift and maybe add in some cardio.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that I know logically that in order to really see major progress in one area, you should probably do multiple blocks of training where you're kind of focusing and recycling back to that same. So, like, for example, this program right now is quad focused. You can get a little quad growth in 6 weeks to 8 weeks, you can. But it's really like the best way, if you really want to focus on growing your quads, you should probably do like multiple blocks of training that are focused on that, right?
Yeah.
But I never do. I have a goal for like one program and then I pick a totally different goal for the next program.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that was fun. Hammered my quads. Maybe they grew. Time to move on,
I'm mostly strength, so I do stick to something. Maybe that's why I'm strong.
Yeah. I mean, it ends up wrapping back around. So like, because the things that I want to work on, whether it's hypertrophy of an area or strength in an area, it does happen. And usually those blocks of training where I'm really focused on it kind of like give me a little bit of a runway. But then when I go back to something else, I'm still working on those things. And now I'm a little bit stronger. I have a little bit more mass or whatever it is. And so I do eventually end up seeing the benefits of that. I do see it, but it's funny. Like, I don't know. So like I'm working quads heavy right now. So they probably haven't measured them. There's probably a little bit of growth. There probably will be at the end of 8 weeks. But then when I stop focusing on them so much, I'll still be training my quads, right? So I'll still be getting like a little bit of that. I don't know, but it's just funny.
Yeah.
I can't really stick to something.
Right. And a lot of times I like to mix things in and then I do too much. And so that's why I'm like, I'm either going to do deadlifts or I'm going to focus more on sprinting. And then the other stuff is like there still. It's just not the same focus. Like right now we're focusing on quads. The upper body stuff is still there. It's just there's a lot less of it and it's not the main focus. And I need to do it that way because if I do too many things at once, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work as well.
Well, also it like brings up maybe things that I've been lagging on. Like, so I had been for a while so focused on deadlifts and stuff that I hadn't really been. And I've been noticing my glutes, like, oh my God, like not even just like my butt, but my glute. I'm like, it is so pronounced. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think that's kind of what made me think like, I want some big quads, you know what I mean? So kind of, it's like, well, I haven't really focused on them a lot. So let's bring them up. And now an area that I haven't been focused on is my lateral delts. And so now I'm like, oh, I think I want to do a program where and then like pull-ups, I've been kind of slacking there. So that makes me think that maybe the next program I'll do will be focused on pull-ups and like lateral delts, like literally shoulders.
Yeah, that was actually my first thought. I actually even programmed it for myself. It was deadlifts and shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to do both at the same time. If I'm going to try to get 300 pounds in my deadlift, I need to focus just on my deadlift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
300
pounds. It's just so hard right now to get any more weight on that bar.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Really
focus. I feel like maybe you should, for the rest of this program, back off the weight on those deadlifts for a while.
I'm not lifting that much. Like yesterday or last week, I mean, today I have to deadlift again. Last week I did 215 or 220 for 5. It wasn't like anything crazy.
It's nothing crazy. I think I did 230 last week, 235 maybe.
For 5?
For 4, I think I did.
Well,
no, I think I did it for 5. No, I did it for 5.
That's a PR for you then.
No, I did like 240, 245.
Not for 5.
I'm going to have to look at what I did.
Yeah, 240 for 5 is an estimated 1 rep max of 280.
Wait. I didn't log it? I didn't log it.
You didn't log it?
I didn't log it.
Because you're lying.
I'm not lying. I did 230. Because I remember doing 220 and being like, I can put 5 more pounds on each side. And I might not have done 5. That part I can't remember.
Okay.
but it wasn't 2 or 3. It was definitely like 4 or 5, but I think it was like 4. And I'm annoyed that I didn't log it. This goes into my like Mojo loss thing, is that I've been doing this thing where I'll log the beginning, and then it's usually like those first like 2 workouts, like the squats or like the deadlifts. I'm like, okay, I'm logging them. And then the rest of the workout, I'm doing it, but I'm like just moving through it. And then I'll just pick up my phone and move on with my day. And then I'll open up my phone and it'll be like, it's been 17 hours. Do you want to continue this workout? And I'll just hit cancel. No, never. Just go away. And I won't even like save what I logged.
So you didn't even log the workout at all?
I was logging it. And then I stopped logging it. And when the app reminded me, like, hey, do you want to continue logging this? I was like, no, just cancel. And I was like, do you want to cancel your workout? I was like, yes, because now I'm just done.
So you're feeling like lackluster with your workouts, but you deadlifted 230 by like 4. That doesn't make any sense.
That's what I'm saying, is when I get into it, it's not the program. Like I'm looking and I do the lift and everything's good, but then I'm done that and I'm like, all right, I worked out. Like I did it. That was hard. and then I kind of fuck around like the rest of it. Like I'm doing it, but I'll miss stuff. And
when I feel that way, I don't have a good workout.
I mean, again, it's not just feeling like tired or lazy in a workout. It's like I'm unmotivated.
Yeah, unmotivated makes me tired and lazy.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's a different feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that feeling, because if I feel like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do it. Like I do it, but I'm not going to hit new PRs.
Yeah, I don't know, because I was like, dang, that was awesome. And I was like, I don't want to do anything else. So I don't know. I need to change of environment, because then when I'm in a different environment, I'm like, all right, I'm going to, finish my workout and stuff. So anyway.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think I should do? Do you think I should do deadlifts or sprints?
So you don't want to do deadlifts and sprints in the same program? Oh, got it.
No. I want to focus on one or the other. That doesn't mean the deadlifts won't be there. It's just I won't be trying to hit a 300-pound deadlift and then sprinting.
Right. Do you want to do HIIT at all?
Yeah.
Like not non-sprinting HIIT?
Yeah.
Could you do deadlifts in that?
I could.
Then maybe that's what you should do.
A little less crazy.
Yeah, do your heavy deadlift day like earlier in the week, and do like a HIIT thing later in the week. Mm-hmm. And if you want to add another one, you could.
Yeah. Yeah, then I get that'll help me work up to it too. If I just do one HIIT workout a week.
Mm-hmm. Get the cardiovascular up there.
Yeah. And I think I should do that anyway, because I sometimes feel like my cardio is my limiting factor. So if I'm doing heavy squats for multiple reps, I get really like out of breath. And I feel like that happens more than my legs even get tired. I mean, they do get tired, but I feel like it's also limiting my capacity. Like I need to get up my capacity.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, do that. How many days a week would you do a program?
I only want to do it. I only want to do it like 3 days, but I can do 4 if I do the HIIT on top of it. Because I need to, like I said, lower the volume a little bit if I'm going to just focus on getting that deadlift up. I don't want to be doing 100 different things and getting tired out. I need to just focus on that. So I'll probably do 1 day of heavy deadlifting and another day of either like a lighter deadlift or like a speed deadlift or something like that.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to really play around with, for my next program, because I've been kind of thinking about it. I think I'm going to focus on pull-ups and getting those up higher again. And some shoulders. I'm going to make sure there's a lot of volume for shoulders, not necessarily like I'm going to grow these like caps, but just make sure there's a lot of volume, or enough, like, I guess, volume for shoulders. And then I want to play around with putting a good amount of like power in my training as well. I've been really kind of neglecting that lately. So I'd like to add that in there on those days. And then I'm going to I had this realization, tell me what you think. I've been like, oh, I can't do, you'll probably agree with this though. I can't do strength training and my high intensity, Taekwondo classes on the same day. So I have to do only 2 or 3 strength training days and then my 3 Taekwondo. But I just had this thought. I was like, it's fine. I mean, it's a tiring, but it's not a whole hour of tiring. It's more like 20 to 30 solid minutes of like high intensity tiring. Like I could do a strength training. I could double up one day. It's not going to
Yeah,
kill me. It
I
would be
know.
fine.
I think you could, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that if you went into Taekwondo that you would be exhausted and it would make it so you couldn't perform?
Not if I eat enough and not if I'm going to the gym in the morning and not if I'm not doing like deadlifts. If I do like,
Yeah.
maybe that'll be like a higher volume accessory day.
Yeah, I think then you would be fine.
Yeah. And so I think I'm going to do 4 days a week training because I kind of miss that routine. I think I'm going to do an upper lower, and then just do one of the days I'll double up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a so what I have is I have 4 possible topics
Okay.
and they're numbered 1 through 4,
Okay.
and I'm going to have you pick a number and I present
Okay.
the topic and then we discuss it.
All right. You want me to go with mine first?
We're so good at podcasting.
All right. So I wanted to talk about not letting perfection be the enemy of good.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a client, I'm sure you have, where you're looking at their form videos, everything looks good, there's a couple things that they need to fix, but for the most part their form looks good. And you're like, "Okay, this looks great. You can, I want you to up your weight next week or whatever." And a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes their response will be, "I don't really want to up my weight until I perfect my form." Do you ever have clients like that? And I feel like that's not common just with clients, but with people where they're so interested in getting everything perfect before they actually they're hindering their progress because they're too worried about being perfect when your form doesn't actually have to be perfect before you start adding weight. And there's
Yeah.
like a balance. Obviously, you don't want to be doing something where your form, if it doesn't feel good, then I would say work on it. Or if it's just really bad and you have a lot to work on, then you probably want to stay at a lower weight. But your form doesn't have to be perfect before you up your weight.
Not only that, but sometimes adding weight can actually help improve your form,
Yeah.
especially with something like a deadlift. When people are doing deadlift with really light weight, like with only 10 pounds on either side,
Yeah.
a lot of times, like some of the cues you want to give them, like they can't feel like pulling the tension out of the bar. If you
Yeah.
pull the tension out of the bar's going to leave the ground because it's so light. Like, so
Yeah.
you can't really, and you can't really
Exactly.
feel the weight pulling down on you. So a lot of times, yeah, exactly. Like there's certain point where I don't want you to increase any weight because you are like not doing the thing I said to do at all. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely like
Yeah.
but if you're mostly good and there's a couple things that we can tweak over time, a lot of times having heavier weight will actually help us focus on those things because you can
That's
feel
true.
like what I'm talking about more.
That's true. I was thinking of like a squat. What's for me the most common thing I see with a squat is that you want to have that straight up and down bar path, and a lot of times people at the bottom will start, you know, leaning forward, and the bar comes. Sorry, and the bar comes forward. Can't hear me. Um, and usually when you do that, so if you come down to the bottom and the bar starts coming forward, usually has to do with ankle mobility. So as you're coming down, if your knees are able to come forward, right, you're able to balance and be able to keep that bar, on your midfoot where it's supposed to be. But if your if your knees aren't able to come forward, if
Mm-hmm.
you stay like this, you're gonna fall over backwards. So you kind of have to lean over to help yourself balance and not fall over. And that's like probably the most common thing I see with squats. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just an ankle mobility thing, which you can work on that while you're squatting. So just because you don't have that perfect doesn't mean that you shouldn't add any more weight to it. You can work on both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets to a point with like squat in particular. Like it was funny. I was talking to my friend who is like this big guy who lifts and he does taekwondo with me as well. And his squat, he's very much kind of admits is a little bit of an ego lifter because he is very strong and his form is really good. And so when he's in that gym and there's other military guys coming in throwing around weight, not really knowing what he's doing, and he does, and it feels good to like just throw those plates on the bar. But his knees like do not go past his toes. And he's like very aware. He's like in a squat in particular, he's like, I really need to lower the weight so I can focus on form.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of, I don't know I think I told you this, but when I was out of the gym for like solid 8 weeks, because I was traveling in the United States and I was doing the Cossack squats with a kettlebell, I was not squatting. A Cossack squat's like almost like a lateral lunge, right? But it's more deep and it's more stretched. And so I'm really sitting there on the bottom of essentially the single leg squat, holding a 25-pound kettlebell, which is not near the amount of weight that I back squat with. But when I came back from that, like I didn't necessarily get stronger in squats, but my ankle mobility was so like I was able to pop down into like a stretch in that position without falling at all. And so really actually lowering the weight, but having it heavy enough that, so like in that example, like if they can up the weight, but they can't do it, they can't do it too much, right? Because they're still generally like a newbie person. But if they're still really hyper focused on form, that weight is going to help almost like push them down into that proper like position for like, and help with the ankle mobility and help with like mobility and flexibility and all of that stuff.
Yeah. And I like to use my warm-up sets as the lighter weight where I'm going to really focus on my form. I mean, I focus on my form the entire time, but that's where you can lower the weight and do that in practice with a lighter weight is during your warm-up sets. You don't need to. I mean, it's not, if every once in a while you lower the weight so that you can work on these things, it's not a big deal, but don't like, don't do that. Like, don't not up the weight ever because you're like, well, I can't until I perfect my form.
Yeah. And like you said, if you're not at like risk of injury, there's a gray zone of where there's a little bit of allowance. And even as you get like very advanced, when you reach your maxes, it's hard to keep every single thing exact. Like there's an allowance of like imperfect form. And so the last thing I want to do is somebody who sends me their deadlift PR, if it's like a relatively new lifter and they get 165 pounds for the first time. And I'm like, hell yeah. And again, as long as there's their form is, 80% there, there's no high risk of injury. That's when I'll say like, I want you to continue hitting this weight. We're not necessarily going to increase right now because this was huge for you actually, but like all of your warm-up sets are going to be perfect. Like they need to be perfect. Like send me a warm-up and then also send me your last set. But I don't want to take that bar away from them because that was huge. Like being able to get that strength build up. So
yeah, as long as they're not lifting all with their back with the bar way out in front of them and like
exactly.
Yeah, it's good. I just I heard somebody say that more recently who was like a more advanced lifter about how he lowered the weight of his squat because he's like, well, my bar path isn't perfect, so I got to make sure it's. And then he like years later he regrets it because like I didn't need to do that. It's not that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you first presented that topic, I thought it was going to be, because you could take that in a lot of places. Like, don't let the idea of perfection hold you back from. Like, I was thinking about somebody in particular who, it's like she's doing every single thing right. She's hitting every single workout. She's very active during the day. She's eating protein and fiber and produce, and like she doesn't even need to track. She knows exactly, like she's building her meals perfectly, like firing on all cylinders. But she's feeling bad because she didn't track. One of the things we talked about was like, let's track this week. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't do it. I didn't get to, I was like, dude, you're doing all these other, like, we don't have to like aim for perfection. Like, gosh,
no.
I'm poster child for that this week, but
yeah.
But I like the direction you took it with focusing more on like form. Cause that's a really good point. And like you and I both said, if it's within that like 70 to 100% perfect range, like still hit those highs, but don't settle for anything less on like your warm up sets. So you can continue to like really focus on that.
Exactly. All right.
Good one.
Do you have some topics?
Pick a number 1 through 4. I wanted to have 7, but I only have 4.
Ooh, 7 would have had to be a lot. Let's go with 3.
3. Salmon.
Salmon. I just had salmon for dinner last night.
I want to talk about salmon. Me too.
Did you?
Yes, I love salmon. And I think we might have talked about salmon before, but are you liking it more?
I don't really like salmon, but
Maybe
I eat it.
You cook it wrong. Do you cook it wrong?
No, I just never. When I was a kid, I hated salmon. Like when my mom would cook salmon, I wouldn't touch it. And I'm not a very picky eater. You know, when I was a kid, I would eat most things, even if I didn't really like it. But salmon was one I couldn't. I don't like really. I don't know. I don't really like fishy things.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I eat it more, your taste buds can get used to things. But it's I should say that it's like, if I'm going to make salmon, I don't get excited about it. It's not like I'm like, salmon, but I'm not like, ooh, salmon.
It's my favorite meal of the week. When I think about what night salmon night's going to be on, I just start drooling in my mouth.
I wish I liked it that much. I hit all my nutrients when I get salmon in.
Oh, yeah. And yeah. I mean, my favorite parts are like the thin parts they usually are like more fatty, and they just like sizzle in like the oil with whatever seasoning I put. I'm like, oh my God, I literally pick the bits off like in the pan and stuff. I love it so much.
You fry it in a pan?
Sometimes I'll like saute it. A lot of times I'll bake it. Mm-hmm. I do like an Asian salmon that the kids devour.
How do you bake it?
The Asian one?
Yeah.
In that one, I do it in like a casserole dish, and I make this like honey soy sauce with the sesame oil too, and it almost sits in the liquid a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that just goes in like the casserole dish. But another one that I did last night was brown sugar chili powder. So I mix a tablespoon of brown sugar, a tablespoon of chili powder, and some salt and garlic powder, and rub that all over it and just bake it. And my rule now, I have a very specific rule. Like my husband, I prepped dinner last night, but he cooked it because we were at Taekwondo, so he had it ready when we got back. And like I wrote on the Post-it note, I was like, preheat the oven to 400. Do not put the salmon in until it's preheated. Then bake it for exactly 15 minutes. Take it out after 15. Like it has to be exactly 15 minutes at 400 degrees. And that's how it just is so juicy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you overcook it, it gets a little dry.
It gets dry. Or sometimes I'll do seared in the cast iron with like lots of lemon and salt. Mm-hmm. And that's really good.
I love how much you love salmon.
I love it so much. My mouth is like watering right now thinking about it. And we don't have any left in the freezer. We have to go to Costco.
I was thinking about this the other day when you were asking about, it was last podcast when you were asking about caffeine and soda. You asked if I drink, ever have soda. I'm like, I'm not a soda drinker. And you're like, of course, because you don't have soda or protein bars. And it made me think about how I don't eat foods that are like, that I'm not super excited about if they're not really healthy. Mm-hmm. Right. So
it's not like worth it.
It's not worth it. So I don't eat a lot of snack foods. It's not because unless there's a couple that I really like and I enjoy and I crave, but for the most part, I avoid them because it's just not worth it. Whereas something like salmon is kind of in the other direction where I eat it, even though it's not something I'm super excited about because it has a lot of benefits to it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love salmon. It's my favorite. It's my favorite food. I love it so much.
So that's just what you wanted to talk about.
That's it. Just want to talk about it. Just want to talk about salmon.
No, nothing particular about why it's good for you or anything like that.
No, I mean, I think we all know omega-3s, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, omega-3s. That's it, baby. Protein, deliciousness.
It's got a lot of nutrients in it, not just omega-3s.
What else? But yeah. Nutrient whiz.
It has vitamin D in it,
yep.
Which most things don't have, and just a wide array of vitamins and minerals. I don't know them all, but I know when I get my salmon, I'll get yesterday, all my nutrients are there. I don't.
Oh, nice.
None of them are low.
Oh man, I could eat it every day.
The salmon and the broccoli put together, just hit them all.
Love it. All right, pick a number 1 through 4, but not 3.
1.
Ooh, 1. I like this one.
Okay.
Hoarding calories.
Hoarding calories.
Hoarding
so like saving
calories
them for the weekend or something.
Yeah. So for an event, hoarding calories for like an event, hoarding calories for a weekend, anything, hoarding calories for a date night dinner. So you barely eat that day. In general, hoarding calories.
So like my opinion on it?
Yeah.
I think it's an okay strategy if you're somebody that it depends on the person. You know, some people,
Totally.
if they do that, they end up doing that restrict binge thing. Whereas other people, it's fine. Like I can do that where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be going to this place and I just want to be able to eat whatever I want and not worry about it. So I'm going to be a little bit lighter with my calories during the week or whatever. And I think that's a great strategy if you can do it mentally and it doesn't screw with you.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is another one of those things where it was something that I feel like used to be talked about as a good strategy. But then now more so I see people saying, oh, don't do that. It's really, bad for mental health and relationship with food and all of this stuff. So it's more like, oh, don't do that. But exactly like you said, I think that at a point, if you get to the point, and it's hard to know, like I can't give you an exact point or a line that you look for when you know that you've reached the point where you could like practice something like that. And it changes, it changes for individuals too. Like I know there's some seasons in life where I can't do that. If I get into that mindset, it's going to trigger me. But there's other seasons in life where I can totally do that. And it's a great strategy for me to use, like you said. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily that I'm consistently tracking. It could even just be, I'm just going to eat lighter this week because I know this thing is coming up. And it's not necessarily that I'm trying to make all of the calories fit, but I'm trying to not make this thing or this event or whatever it is take me too far over the edge. So I'm like trying to create a buffer. But I think it can totally be a healthy and fine strategy to use. But it, like you said, it depends on the person and it depends on like where your mind is around it because it can very easily lead into that binge restrict cycle.
And I think it's better if it's planned like that than if it's the other way. So let's say you overate on the weekend, then you're like, I'm going to starve myself the rest of the next week. I think that's worse than planning it.
Yeah. I mean, even then I could see like just being like, I'm going to lay low a little bit on the food consumption because I'm feeling like this is kind of like a natural thing anyway. But when you get back from a vacation that you kind of just went all out and you're just not hungry for a couple days. Like it just takes a while.
Yeah, that's very
true. And so my
true.
husband like barely ate yesterday because it was our first day back because he just was really enjoying himself. First day back from our trip and he like barely ate. And by nighttime, he's like, I had like one meal today and I'm full.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing, I guess. It depends on the person. Because if you're doing it to punish yourself because you're like, I was bad over the weekend or something, then that's different than I just feel like crap and I need to eat a little less right now.
Yeah. And I'll feel better if I eat a little less. It's not about going and starving yourself or punishing yourself. And I think that's where you have to be really, and again, you still might get it wrong. Like people still might get it wrong even when they stop and try to self-examine. But it's all a learning process. But you really do have to stop and self-examine and ask like, where am I coming from with this strategy? And why would I want to implement it or do it? And if it's for any reason, like a punishment or anything like that, then not a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like everything else, the answer is always balance.
Always. always. Never anything new.
Nope.
All right, pick a number 1 through 4, but not 1 or 3.
4.
4. Before and after photos.
Okay.
And this can tie into the post you made as well.
So how people can alter before and after photos?
Totally. Not only can they, but how freaking rampant it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a huge opinion.
I feel like ever since these photo editing apps got really good, it's and it started with like I follow this guy on, I don't know if it's TikTok or Instagram, but he basically green screens himself over people's accounts and points out where they very clearly altered their photos. And he will do it with like celebrities. And he'll just like straight up point it out. And it's fascinating because he'll zoom in and be like, you see this on the wall right there. Like this picture doesn't look altered. And she even says, a lot of times they'll say in there, of course I would never use like filters or edits. This is completely unfiltered, but you can see the wall in the background is like this, wavy line. And he's like, if you look close, you can see these don't match. And so at first I'm like, oh man, lots of, people posting pictures of themselves. But then I started seeing people posting pictures like that of their quote unquote clients' results.
And imagine how that makes you feel as a client too.
Right.
Like my results weren't good enough. You have to alter them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they talk to them before they do this or they just
I wonder the same thing. Does the client realize?
Yeah. Or do they even notice? Because it's not a huge, change, but it does make a difference.
Yeah. Or another thing I've seen is people using somebody else's photos. They're not even their own.
Yeah.
So it would actually be very easy. Like I could probably right now go on Google, find some random before and after photos. Mm-hmm. I could post them and probably none of my clients would even necessarily know. They would think, oh, that must be an old client of hers. She's using the photos. Like, no, I just found these on Google,
Have you ever seen that one where it's like, it's a joke and it's this like, overweight white guy. And then it's like, and then the after picture is this like shredded black guy. It says like never give up. I don't know. There's so many things written over it. Like
never give up. You can achieve your dreams.
Yeah, I think something like that. It's hilarious.
Oh, but yeah, it is so rampant and it's so disturbing and it's so frustrating because it feels like something, as somebody who is so focused on trying to be real, mm-hmm. and especially like online in the fitness and nutrition space, how do you overcome that? Like, because even if I do, so I'm kind of in this, I don't really love, I'll post progress photos, especially if the progress that the person made in the progress photos was something that they were really aiming to improve upon. So like, I want to celebrate that win because that was a goal of theirs. Whereas if somebody else's goal was to get stronger, their win that I'm probably going to post is not going to be a progress photo. It's going to be like a deadlift comparison of like the amount of weight they can lift or like their form comparison. But some people really want that aesthetic result. And if they see aesthetic results, I want to celebrate that. So I'm going to post it. But at the same time, it makes you feel too, like, what can I'm going to post a really realistic photo, but people are so used to seeing these drastic things that it's not going to look like anything. It's going to look like no progress.
Yeah. I don't know, but there might be some people who see that and feel like, oh, I can do that. Whereas if they see this other photo where it's this drastic change, it might be like overwhelming. I don't know. So it might feel more achievable.
Yeah, that's true. Look at the positive side of it.
Yeah. I do think doing this though as a whole is bad because people will see that and feel like, well, why does my progress suck? Because I don't look like that after 12 weeks,
Right. And I don't really love progress photos anyway. I do. That's wrong. I don't like the phrasing before and after photos. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. I do like the phrasing progress photos. I do like clients to take progress photos because they tell a much bigger story. Even when clients come and say, you know what? I don't care that much about the scale. I really just want to get strong and healthy. Mm-hmm. That's usually, like, I hear you and I respect that and I think that's amazing. But usually they do still care about wanting to feel and look better. Because that's the person I'll get that then comes to me and is like, my clothes feel really tight. And I'm like, didn't you say that? They do still care. Like, people still care. And if you can have and it's like, look, you don't ever have to look at the pictures. Just take them, load them, walk away. But almost every time when they start to feel a little like, am I making progress? I don't know. My weight hasn't really changed. I'm like, first of all, let's look at all these other forms of progress you made, but also look at your photos. See that? And then they're usually, and then you can finally see. So it helps tell a bigger picture. So I really like when clients do them, but I don't love posting them. And again, I still will sometimes. It depends on the person, but I work really hard on making sure that that's not the main thing that I post for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important. I've almost moved to a couple of times to not ever using progress photos. And I've done that at periods of time in my job, but I've also learned that like I said before, people still actually do care about that and they do want to see progress. And if you stop, like, I don't want to devalue it as a measure of progress. That's how I feel about it. I don't want to not do them at all and say that I'm essentially devaluing aesthetic change, because I think it's okay to want aesthetic change, but I think it should have an equal playing field to all of the other areas of improvement we can make when it comes to fitness and nutrition. And that's my aim, is to help make it like level. Like we can post a before and after of your deadlift form, or the weight that you're using, or your mobility, or the way that you feel. Maybe you submitted a picture where you just kind of look dead in the eyes, but now your picture's like you're smiling, like your moods change. Like there's so many things that we can improve upon. And it shouldn't just be focused on aesthetics and pictures and weight.
I agree. Yeah. And then the old thing, I don't know if people still do this, was where they would have somebody who was already fit and then take a picture of them in their fit state and then have them eat and not work out for a while, like overeat, and then take that picture and then use that as the before picture. And the other
That's ridiculous. But not to mention, that just made me think about lighting too. Like you see people post like, so you can, any given person can look like they've lost or gained 20 pounds, depending on how you stand, the clothes you wear, and the lighting and the pose.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of that too.
Definitely. I haven't mastered the lighting. Well, I don't take pictures of myself, so
You don't. Of course you haven't mastered it.
No. So I wouldn't know.
All right. My last, my number 2 is Pilates.
Pilates.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done Pilates?
A long time ago. I did like when I was in high school. It was like a Pilates for Dummies video. That's it.
Did you like it?
No. I remember it was a lot of core, which is cool. But no.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought you would.
I would rather, lift heavy stuff. I'm nothing against it. I think it's something that added in, as long as it's not your sole thing that you focus on, like added in could have lots of benefits. But I don't focus on Pilates.
Yeah. I mean, I think Pilates could be good for somebody who is getting into the idea of resistance training, because it is using your body resistance in a lot of ways. And you can get, especially if you're going from nothing to something, you can gain muscle for sure. Remember when the Miley Cyrus photo was going around of her arms at the Grammys or whatever?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Pilates, because she does Pilates. Well, yes, she does do Pilates, and she probably did gain a little muscle from Pilates, and that's great, but she's also just very lean.
Yeah.
Like she could lift heavy weight and you'd probably be just as amazed, and she'd probably have a little bit more muscle, a lot more muscle from lifting. Not that that's the point. Like I don't care how she looks amazing always, but it's just funny that that's instantly what people want to do, is like, oh, we got to do Pilates because of this. No, not really. There's lots of things that could actually get, the main reason that her arms look like that are because of how lean she is, right?
Yeah.
But I think Pilates can help you build like a base layer of muscle. I think it can be really good, like you said, for core and for mobility and flexibility, kind of like in the way that yoga can be also. So like you said, I think it's good added in, but people who use it as their main form of like resistance training, I think you're leaving a lot on the table. Yeah. You hit a wall pretty quickly with how much you can develop your strength and power. And it's not that everybody needs slabs and slabs of muscle, but it's more so you don't get the opportunity to really focus on strength or power or any of that when you're doing Pilates either. So you can build like a base layer of maybe hypertrophy and then mobility and flexibility, but it shouldn't really be the core of what you're doing.
No, you want to find something that you can progressive overload, and that can only take you so far. Right. Only add reps, and I mean, you can make things a little bit more difficult, but eventually you're going to hit a wall.
What would you say to somebody though that just loves Pilates? Like that's just like their favorite thing to do, and they get excited about doing it and it keeps them consistent.
That's fine. I would just add in other stuff too.
Yeah.
Add in another day of resistance training.
Yeah, that's what I would do. If you're like doing Pilates 4 or 5 days a week and you just love it so much, maybe we could exchange one of those days or add on, yeah,
Yeah.
like some higher quality progressive overload or resistance
Yeah.
training to complement it.
I would never discourage someone from doing something that they love if it's what's keeping them consistent. So yeah, I would say if that's the thing that you are in love with, then do it. But just have like, even if you just do one day of resistance
Mm-hmm.
training, it's going to have a lot of benefits. Do you remember when that one guy that we don't really like very much, Menno Henselman?
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the things that I'm like, you're no, or he posted something about how the uh like the what's the word for men, it's harder to, like he was post like something about like he was posting like about how like Captain America and all of these people, like it's harder for men to achieve the standards than it is for women.
I do remember that.
Remember that? And I was like, you're an idiot, because nobody expects men to look like Captain America. Like he's a superhero. Whereas every woman in movies or, obviously you can get, it's easier to be lean than to look like Captain America, but it's just a more, like women are expected to be this leanness where no one expects men to look like Captain America, even though that's probably harder to achieve.
Yeah, also though the woman example often comes with things that you literally can't achieve because of genetics, because we have so many varying, like I actually, if we're going to do this argument, I would actually say that the Captain America or like superhero man physique is easier to achieve than the superhero woman physique,
Yeah.
because if your hip to waist ratio is not exactly that because of your genetics, or you don't have the, your boobs aren't like a CD cup, then like
Yeah.
there's literally nothing I can do short of surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like, oh my gosh, I want to reach to the internet and slap this guy.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yours
Yeah.
is way more achievable than mine. And you've got the testosterone to build muscle? Give me a break.
Yeah. I understand. It's for his argument was for men to look like these people, that they would, a lot of them would have to take steroids to do it, where women could get lean just by eating less food. Either way, neither one is normal. Like for you to be that lean, for a woman to be that lean all the time, it might not even be healthy for you to be that lean all the time.
I even disagree with that, because the superheroes you see, have you seen a guy on steroids? He doesn't look like a superhero. The superheroes don't look like that. They don't make them look like jacked bodybuilders.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't know if everybody would have the genetics to look like Thor. I don't I don't think that's always achievable for all men, and if it was, it would take years and
I'm not
years and
saying it's
years.
achievable for all men. So I'll put
Okay.
that out. I'm not saying it's achievable for all men. I
Yeah.
do think it is much more achievable for men, that standard, than an equivalent standard for women, because you have so many other factors at play. And men are literally born to be able to build muscle. Like they have the natural like hormones and everything they need to be able to, that's what they're like made to do, is like let's put on muscle.
Yeah.
And women aren't necessarily, but they're not. But again, using the example of Thor, Thor does not look like these guys that are on steroids that have just these bulging muscles. Like he doesn't look like that.
Yeah, but most men would probably have to take steroids to look like Thor. I don't think
I
like Wayne, if Wayne worked out like a crazy person, it would take him, I don't know how long to look like, I don't think he would ever look like Thor. It would be very, very hard.
Of course. I'm not taking that away from Wayne. But for me to look like Superwoman,
But that wasn't the comparison. It was just
what's the comparison then?
to be like a lean, like the people that you normally, it wasn't to see, that was my argument, is that no one's expecting us to look like Wonder Woman. So why are people expecting men to look like Captain America? Those are superheroes. No one is saying like that's what you should look like. Whereas every woman in a movie, if for the most part, is pretty lean, and that's like the standard of, you know, whereas the dad in a movie isn't always fit, you know. There, so his argument was that standards for men are harder to achieve than standards for women. And I'm like, that's not true, because no one expects you to look like Captain America. No one is saying that's what a guy should look like. Whereas women, you are expected to look that way.
Right. Yeah, you will have like that guy from Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Why Tim Allen? Tim Allen can be he's regular, right?
Yeah, he just looks like a normal guy.
It's totally regular in like every way you can imagine. But you'll never see Tim Allen married to like a regular looking woman on TV. Yeah.
No.
Oh,
no, that was my argument, is that I understand the point of, for a man to get there, they might have to take steroids to get to that point, but no one is saying that you have to look like that. Like, no one expects that.
I still think that if we were to use equivalent comparisons like Thor and Superwoman, I still think, using that comparison, that it is easier for men to look like Thor than it is for women to look like Superwoman.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
If comparing Thor to Superwoman, I don't know who played Superwoman. I don't know what she looked like.
I'm even imagining the cartoon version. I'm not even imagining a real person. But all I'm imagining is big round boobs and an itty bitty waist.
Oh yeah.
And somehow
you can't
all of the
that.
power and strength.
A little bitty waist, a big butt, big boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
without surgery, you're not getting that.
No, surgery. Like not even steroids or testosterone or some kind of injectable, like surgery, like altering the actual structure of my body would be the only way to achieve that.
Yeah. And I think the standards have changed a little bit for women on the good side, because remember the 90s? Remember when it was like you had to be like in the 90s, it was like anorexia was in. It was like you had to be disgustingly thin. I remember there's this scene that I've seen from America's Next Top Model or something, and Tyra Banks is talking to this woman, and she's like, so how do you feel about being the only plus size model here? And the woman looks like
not plus size at all.
No, not plus size. She looks super fit. Like there's nothing plus size about her.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Super fit and healthy. And it was like,
oh gosh,
most people would kill to look like that, and you're calling her plus size. Now I don't think it's that way anymore.
I think we've definitely shifted.
Yeah, so that's a positive.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But anyway, that guy, he get me all riled up. Slap that guy.
It was that one, and then he had another one about sprint training, about building muscle or something, and that it's not, it doesn't, I don't remember. It was this other one. I'm like, and he was comparing it to like HIIT training, like sprinters. He was saying that sprinters have big muscular legs because of genetics and not because they sprint, which I agree. Like people who are going to be better at sprinting are going to already have those genetics, right? But his argument was that like sprinting itself doesn't actually build any muscle in your legs. And he was comparing it to HIIT studies. And in the HIIT studies, they're like doing like, 30 seconds on, a minute off. I'm like, that's not sprint training, dude. That's not the same thing. Like sprint training, you run as fast as you can for a short period of time, and then you rest until you recover. Sprinters aren't, they might do that in between, but if they're trying to get faster, if their goal is to get faster, they're not taking like 30-second breaks in between.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I remember it was like, what are you doing?
It's like comparing actual sprinters and the routine that they do to like me doing Tabata.
Exactly.
Like burpees,
like, that's
and
not the same thing.
No.
Like, that's not what sprinters do.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. Really appreciate it. See you next week.
Bye.